So, Emer Callahan, Head of Experience and Industry Development with Tourism Northern Ireland. First of all, maybe just a little bit of an explanation on your job title and kind of what you do. And also maybe if you just like to touch upon the issues that are faced regarding the perception of careers in tourism and hospitality.
Hi, Joel. Yes, I'm a head of experience and industry development, which covers a multitude. But I suppose my key role is really championing our efforts to promote careers in tourism and hospitality here in Northern Ireland, working with all the great partners across Northern Ireland. And I suppose coming out of COVID, there was a clear ask from our industry that they wanted to reopen and they really wanted to get back to normal operating environment, but there was a clear need for people, and not just any people, really good people to work in the industry. But from COVID, tourism and hospitality had suffered a real setback. It was the first industry to close, the last to reopen, and there was a complete issue then with regarding our perceptions of careers in that industry. So we sort of had a under the bonnet look like what are the big challenges here. So we did commissioned in-depth market research. So we spoke to over 1,000 people. So that was employees in the industry, past employees, employers, students, and the general public. And the vast amount of people said that careers in tourism and hospitality just were not appealing to them. There was five key things that the general public wanted in a career, such as being able to take time off whenever they booked it, having clear training and progression opportunities, being valued and respected in their workplace, and they just felt that they weren't there in careers in tourism and hospitality. So we had a big perception issue to address, but also that we needed to work with employers as well to change the on the ground working experience. That whilst we have some amazing employers, we also have ones who aren't so good, and we need to work with everybody to bring us up to a good common standard. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's where we started off.
Super. And if I maybe bring in Helen Smith, Employment Relations Manager with the Labour Relations Agency. Helen, maybe a 10-second tour of the LRA, the Labour Relations Agency. And I'd love to actually just follow on from that point and from your experience with actually engaging with people, and what are the common issues or the problems that are faced with regard to hospitality?
Thanks, Joel. Well, the Labour Relations Agency, we're an independent, publicly funded organisation that provides free, impartial and confidential services to employers, individuals and their representatives. Essentially, our business is around improving employment relations and promoting best employment practices. And we offer a range of advisory and dispute resolution services. I lead up the advisory services side of the house, and within this area of work, we provide information and advice on good employment practices, and that's really designed to prevent the occurrence of disputes. We provide assistance with the development and implementation of workplace documentation, and then practical support through the delivery of training on a wide range of employment-related topics. Now, I suppose just to clarify, there is a misconception out there in the province that, we are some kind of an enforcement body, but that is not what we do. We promote and encourage good employment relations and best practices, but we do not enforce. I suppose in terms of the high volume of calls that we receive each year, certainly from the tourism and hospitality sector, we would often find that there are some good employers out there, but there are some not so good employers. And I suppose some of the issues that we would be receiving would be around potential breach of contract, where perhaps an employee hasn't received their contract or a written statement of particulars within the 2 months of commencing employment. They're perhaps not familiar with the policies and procedures that's in the workplace. Maybe around something around working time, maybe they're not getting their proper holiday entitlement, or indeed being paid their proper holiday entitlement. And sometimes there may be issues around unlawful deductions from pay, and that may be where the employee is not receiving what their proper pay should be, or maybe receiving less. So again, those are some of the common issues that we are receiving through our workplace information service.
And Emer, I suppose following on from that, whenever you looked under the bonnet of the industry and looked at the challenges being faced, would that ring true kind of with what you're seeing on the ground in hospitality and tourism?
Yeah, and I suppose when we look at some of the top five things that the general public wanted that people didn't perceive were very much, as Helen says, very standard things, the ability to take time off whenever booked, having a clear policy around career progressions, very simple things that um, you know, employers across the board should be able to put into place. But I suppose, whenever we looked under the bonnet, it wasn't all bad news. We really pulled out as well what people absolutely loved about working in the industry. And it's very clear that the people who work in tourism and hospitality are people. They love the buzz of the service. They love being part of people's special occasions, be that birthdays, weddings, holidays, short breaks. And the camaraderie between their team and their colleagues were all very much came to the fore about why people absolutely loved working in the industry. So, the negatives definitely give us a good starting point to work from. There are tangible things that we can address, and Hospitality Ulster has led the way with the introduction of the wellbeing promising, bringing employers all onto a common standard and addressing some of the issues that Helen has referred to, such as having a clear policy for the distribution of tips in a fair manner, creating a workplace where the employee is valued and respected. Putting it in place, that very supportive working environment to help bring people into the industry. And it's an amazing industry to work in, obviously.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And that's it. Helen, it's not all bad news. The hospitality has had a challenge, especially post-pandemic, of maybe keeping staffing levels up and the high turnover of staff when businesses were closed. They maybe moved into more conventionally timed jobs, the traditional 9 to 5. But also on the flip side to that, there are better employers that are now seeing that you treat your people well and you retain them, upskill them. So a lot of employers are offering perks and the ability to kind of train on the job and progress as people.
Very much so. And I think, to be honest, Joel, we all have our own views on what good work means to us. And, I think there are some basic criteria or factors that would enable all of us to have a fulfilling experience of work. And some of these certainly form part of the new hospitality Wellbeing and Development Promise, which was launched a few months back. But I think some of those basic criteria, which I would think would be more common, would be around the recruitment and selection processes. Are they fair? Do they promote equality and value diverse perspectives? Around the methods of recruitment, are they appropriate for the actual role that the employer is advertising? And then, of course, retention. It's important that you want to retain the people that you're getting in to the organisation, because it's costly to have to go back out and recruit again. So it's important you have a structured induction programme, and if there are probationary periods attached to that, is there support and mentorship available? Learning and development opportunities to equip the person to carry out their role. And of course, if there's specific mandatory training and then the requirement for refresher training is appropriate, it's making sure that you have that paperwork in place and it is in fact fit for purpose. And obviously the contract, the written statement of employment particulars, that offers people job security, and it sets out things like your job title, your place of work, your pay. Is it minimum wage, national living wage, or the real living wage? Your hours of work, your overtime arrangements, holiday entitlement and pay, etc., etc. Again, investing in training and clear career pathways so people feel supported and motivated to learn and grow within their role. And of course, that flexible working piece, we're all interested in flexible working, but within the tourism and hospitality sector, you have to be open where you can. It's not a given right to have flexible working, but it has to suit the business needs as well. But it's giving people that balance, or the opportunity to strike that balance between life and work. Obviously, health, safety and well-being of staff is really front and centre nowadays. The dignity and respect piece. It's important that they feel valued, and Emer did mention that, and have that real sense of belonging within the workplace. And of course, setting up mechanisms for individual and collective voice. So we're looking at employee voice so that they can be heard and listened to. And obviously the equality, diversity, inclusion piece, promoting that positive environment and demonstrating that you are an employer of choice.
It would be remiss of me not to touch on the Hospitality Ulster website, where you can read an awful lot more about the Wellbeing and Development Promise, and also get access from members to the HU Academy, over 40 accredited training courses, and many of our members use that to full effect and upskilling their staff on the job. You can also find a fantastic series of knowledge nuggets from the Labour Relations Agency, and a lot of resources thereby. I guess to close this chat, Emer, in terms of what's being done in response, I know Tourism Northern Ireland are very active with that, with things like the Make It Here campaign.
Yeah, absolutely, Joel. We're working with Hospitality Ulster, the HATS network and industry right across Northern Ireland to change perceptions of careers in tourism and hospitality. We're a people industry. Our brand for Northern Ireland is Embrace a Giant Spirit. It's all about meeting local people in local communities right across Northern Ireland, and savouring that very authentic experience of discovering Northern Ireland. So we need people. Robots aren't any good to us. We need great people who love working in the industry. So coming out of COVID, we developed a campaign called Make It Here, and it's very much dialing up all the great benefits of working in hospitality and tourism that are perhaps overlooked. And Helen, just picking up with the point about flexibility of working, that's something now hospitality employers right across Northern Ireland are offering. They're offering those flexible work patterns to allow for life commitments or caring commitments, etc. So, we're dialing up a lot of those messages in the campaign, that this is a flexible environment to work in. It's open. It's a very open industry. You don't technically need a whole host of qualifications. You just need to be a people person. And as you say, Joel, there's a great range of then opportunities for upskilling people whilst they work. So, we're recruiting for the attitude and then training them while they're on the job. So the campaign has been very successful to date. The first phase was in March, and we've just finished off with our second phase. And during that phase, we've had over 45,000 visits to our dedicated campaign microsite, which is makeyourcareer.co.uk. So that shows that there is a great interest out there in people wanting to find out more about working in our industry. And interestingly, nearly 15,000 of those have gone on then to look at vacancies on our partner recruitment sites. So that again shows people are interested, they want to know more, and they're actively looking at job descriptions, etc. So, and we've had great support from the industry. We put out a call out, tell us your career story from tourism and hospitality, and we were inundated with stories from people who would, I used to be an accountant and now I'm taking people around the moors, or I used to be in Lord of the Dance and now I own a hotel. So there's great people out there, and they're absolutely key to selling our industry, because if people can see somebody like them working in the sector, they're going to be more inclined to come across and join us.
And certainly from the Labour Relations Agency's perspective, Joel, happier workplaces are more productive, and more productive workplaces help grow the economy.
100%. Couldn't have said it better. All of this and an awful lot more on hospitalityulster.org in the support section. Look for the training and development button. But for now, thank you very much to both Helen Smith and Emer Callaghan. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joel.